God grant me that parking space.
She did the Taylor Swift album, Lover. She did all the photography and all that for that.
Did she really?
Yeah. So she's very artistic, i.e. how amazing this sign looks.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Look at the sign.
Yeah. If you're just joining us right now, this is the first in-person episode. We got Spencer Thomas here. If you're watching on YouTube, which you should be, because this is a first for all of us.
Yeah.
We got a beautiful sign made by my friend Valeria, and it looks amazing. It's got lights and everything.
With the backlighting on it.
It's
great.
The logo here. But yeah, man, I'm stoked to have you on. Like I said, first episode in person.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see how it goes. I feel pretty solid about it already.
Yeah.
But how are you doing?
I'm great so far.
Nice.
It's nice to have just an easygoing Saturday, and I honestly can't remember the last weekend that I've been able to have in Athens.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just got back from touring with Futurebirds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, elephant in the room. You played Red Rocks.
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh, there's so it's everybody around you kind of builds it up to be this hugely special thing, and it really is. It's a big, special, acoustic, historic place, and for most people who play music, it's a huge check mark. It's like a you made it check.
Right.
In the time though, it was just absolutely overwhelming. You know, because
it's huge.
It's like my girlfriend was there, everybody else's girlfriends and wives are there, and then you got family, and the biggest joke we were making is Tom Myers, who's the drummer. He had a huge Iowa family all there, and and they're all like, "Oh, there's the rock star. Can we go to the green room?"
Yeah.
Oh, and
You'll never get away from that.
right, and totally. So it's like the big shows become just like, how can I get this over with? And in some ways, just because you have. I mean, there were probably 40 people just back in the green room area at some point. And,
Damn.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but before I play a show, I just like quiet time.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's nice to have a moment to just clear your head.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a green room, 40 people,
you
might need to like sneak out to the bathroom or something just to like take a breath.
Yeah. So it was a lot of like dodging that, but I will say when we were at Soundcheck, and we played this song called Buffet Days, which is on the new Bloomin' EP. There's a little piano intro, and we all stopped after that, like before the drums come in, and we're like, wow. This is
really happening.
Yeah, this is really happening. Totally.
What's that view like from down there? Because it's probably one of the only venues I can think about where the audience like has this clear slant up.
Yeah.
Is that probably very intimidating? Or can you even see them?
It was almost like you had to block it out. Like, 20 rows up was where the sound booth was.
Yeah.
And then past that, it was like, these are all pretend people. Like, I just kind of was like, these don't even exist.
They're not really there.
Yeah, they're not really there.
It's just a rehearsal.
Yeah. And I think that was the best way to manage it. And it was kind of strange how intimate it did feel. And I think that when people, probably spend a good amount of money to go to Red Rocks.
Yeah.
And they also make a pilgrimage out of it. I mean, people flew there. People drove many hours to get there. And so they're all, they had, you ever heard the term with Grateful Dead? They had like Shakedown Street, right? Where it's like people are all kind of hanging out, almost like how people tailgate for football games.
Right.
It's like that's what people would do for Dead shows.
Yeah,
which I'm
just
not really.
acid.
Yeah, I'm not a Deadhead, so I don't really know.
Neither am I, really. I feel like I'm missing out on something.
Yeah, I'm slowly learning.
Okay, you are? All
yeah.
right.
Some Futurebirds are Deadheads, so
Got you.
I'm kind of like I'm learning, but last night I was talking to my friend Mark about the experience, and he said, "Yeah, that parking lot area is like the new Shakedown Street." He said, like, police don't really come by there, so it's probably a lot of drugs and alcohol being passed around.
Anything goes.
It's
like
kinda,
a lawless land.
Yeah. So it is kind of anything goes at the Rocks, and but the staff is incredibly nice, and just to walk up the ramps and, just like our man, like Bruce Springsteen was up there, Jackson Brown, Tom Petty, Sting, Talking Heads.
Yeah, I mean, everybody pretty much.
Yeah.
That's anybody who's played there.
Yeah.
Was that your first time ever even going?
Ever even going.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
I went once and because you can go and tour the place and just walk around when there's nothing going on. Mm-hmm. So me and my family went, and I stood on the stage for a second. I'm like, I won't stand on the stage again until I play it. Yeah. And you didn't even have to do that. You just played it.
Yeah. I kind of feel that way about big festivals. Like, I've never really been like a big festival guy. I like to be like opener, headliner, go home.
Yeah.
Maybe even third band if I'm really feeling it.
Right. It's rare to find a festival that is going to have like a lot of people you want. Mm-hmm. And then if you do, then, maybe it's worth the money because you would have gone and seen all those shows alone anyway. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it can be a little much to go to a festival.
Yeah.
Like a whole festival all day.
Yeah. It feels overstimulating. I'm kind of one of those guys that just likes alone time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're learning.
Yeah.
About you here today. So having just toured so much, I mean, I know you've toured a lot over the years. What's some advice you'd give to artists that either have never done a tour or they're just starting to like figure out how to play a tour?
It's a marathon and not a race. And at first it's fun, and when you are first touring, it all can kind of feel like a party, and you can drink and stay up late every night, and you start more and more just kind of feeling tired and playing like shit and burning out. So the older I've gotten and the more it's like this is actually a career path, the more I've like taken the yoga mat with me on the road. Nice. And just tried to maybe take it easy on drinking some nights, or not even drink at all, and see how that feels. Playing sober shows are fun too.
Yeah. I'm sure it feels very different to be like, oh, now I actually have to be somewhat responsible and take care of my body, because I've heard that touring life can be very grueling at times. Mm-hmm. You might as well set yourself up for success.
Yeah. And I think that's really the idea is if you think about all the ways you can set yourself up to play better, any iota of routine gives you so much stability on the road. So if you just wake up and do your 10 minutes of stretches, or I mean, I know not like we're fortunate enough in Futurebirds to where we are staying in hotels every night, and we are having kind of our own space. But if there's an opportunity and I have the time, I usually try to run down to the hotel gym, take 20, 25 minutes. Sometimes I'll meditate in the van, or there are just, you always have just like these little bits of time that you can use to help with your physical and mental health while you're on tour. And I feel like whenever I dedicate myself to that, then it shows on the stage. It shows with my mindset and my focus when I'm playing.
Yeah, you just feel more in tune, maybe.
Yeah, in tune, just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe carve out space and time for you to check in with your mental health and make sure that you're doing okay. Because otherwise, maybe you'll end up blacking out because you don't even know like what's going on. You haven't taken any time to, sleep, an extra couple hours or not have that drink or not, whatever. That's smart.
Yeah.
It is a marathon, not a race.
It
right?
It is a marathon, not a race.
I do want to talk about one, God Grant Me a Parking Space, which I love that song. This is your newest song, which came out in February, but you have a newer song coming out soon, right? What's it called?
It's called She Doesn't Know She Does It.
She Doesn't Know She Does It. So what was, do these feel like single A, single B, or is this kind of a whole new situation here?
Whole new thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing those up. God Grant Me a Parking Space was something that just came out pretty organically while I was, you get like on a streak.
Yeah, that's the best.
If you write songs when you're just on a, which I feel like I haven't had this in a while, and we can get to that later, but you get into a place where maybe you're just like throwing down a song a day, just like don't even, and you feel like it could be good, it could be bad, who cares? You just don't even, you're just like happy that it's going. And so I was listening to a podcast of, which obviously we enjoy those.
Yep.
With Duncan Trussell.
Love him. Yeah, dude, he's hilarious.
He's so good, and he has, actors and musicians, but also like spiritual teachers and scientists. I mean, it's so well rounded.
Yeah, he's one of those dudes who just thinks differently.
Yeah.
He's so funny, but he's also like, I don't know. He's almost like a hippie the way he thinks of things, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, it explores beyond what most of our thought process is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels very like universal. Like he's thinking about the big picture.
Yeah.
So you were listening to him.
Huge, big Duncan Trussell fan. And he had Rainn Wilson from The Office.
Whoa, that's cool.
On there with another guest who I can't remember, and they are, he's kind of gone into writing a book about spirituality and religion, and showing
Rainn
himself.
Wilson, is writing a book about spirituality and religion.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I mean, it's like you can't judge people by just the one thing that they do.
Yeah. He's not just white.
Yeah, he's not just white. Yeah. But he was talking about the more like modern Christian idea of God, and I don't really know what your religious standpoint is. We just met when you picked me up in the car. But there is this idea of prayer, and it's one thing to maybe have a rough moment and to pray and to ask for peace and relief, but it's another thing to pray and say like, let Jimmy make an A on his spelling test. Yeah. And so that's kind of what he was explaining. He's like, like you're just saying like, God grant me a parking space. And I was like,
that's it.
Bingo. Ding, 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 ding. So I just immediately, like, I was taking a walk and I was listening to that, and then I got back to the house and I immediately just wrote that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You had the chords like pretty much ready to go in your head, or did that just come out?
Just came.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Wow.
came. And that was just one of the rare moments that it came. And I recorded, and that single was the first thing that I actually recorded at home.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you recorded it yourself? Like what we're hearing is
Mm-hmm.
your engineering work?
Yeah, I mean, Jay Rogers at Full Moon Studio,
Okay.
he kind of took my mix and made it better.
I know that game for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and did a nice master for me. But
Right.
I was like, you know what? Like, this isn't a big old to do. I'm just happy to put out the song. And
Yeah.
it's really nice that it still seems to trickle down and affect people, even though it may have not really shown a lot at the beginning. Just after it came out, I've had a lot of people here and there just talk about what it made them feel, and goal accomplished.
So you feel like when it first came out, maybe the reception wasn't what you were hoping for?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I need to stop hoping for.
Well, release day is always a weird thing.
Yeah.
Because you feel like, especially if it's something you've been sleeping on for a year,
Mhm.
you're finally excited to show people. And then like it comes and goes so quickly. And then the next day, people are like, they're thinking about something else, you know?
Mhm.
Because to you, it's so important to you.
Mhm.
But to everyone else, it's like, oh yeah, he put out a song. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know? And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to manage expectations sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, and you think about the time, the energy, the money, the thought, the just, I don't know, the sleep you lose over this one song, or
Mhm.
how this one part is going to go. And I mean, people they'll be like, oh yeah, Spencer put out a new single, and they'll listen to 15 seconds of it like this and then go, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
That's
and-
true.
And you go, oh wow, that's
You're like, that's who I'm doing it for right there.
yeah. But but you do have to remember that, you know, we first do it for us.
Right.
And if I didn't have that pursuit of when the next song is coming out or when I'm finishing the next record, then I would almost be like, what's the point in in existing?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And so, like, I don't know, we put such a pedestal on our creative work and being like, this is my life's work. And I'm starting to learn that there's more to life than just your creative work.
It's very hard to not think about that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe for me, it's because that's something I can kind of control.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like, oh, this is the most important thing to
Mm.
me, at least at the moment. But when you put all your worth, your self-worth into something that, you know, you think you can control it, but how many times do you sit down to write something and like nothing comes out? It happens all the time.
Yeah.
How many times are you going to mess up at a show? It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How many times does, you know, the business end of things not work out for 100 million different reasons? So it's
Yeah.
like you can't even really control it. So it's still hard not to put your self-worth into something that feels so personal.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
How have you navigated that over the years?
Well, I'm sure you're familiar because, you know, you go as first name, last name artist,
Yeah.
as I go as first name, last name artist. And there's something about doing it that way that makes it more personal because it is you.
Yeah.
Your name is on it. Your picture is on the Spotify page or whatever. So in some ways, when people don't want to book you, or they don't want to write about you, or they just ignore you completely, you feel like it's you.
Right.
And that was something that I had to deal with at first. When I lived in Mississippi, I was in a band called Young Valley for a while, which was more of a creative multiple songwriter thing.
Just double check this video is recording. Yeah, it is.
Cool.
Always want to make sure.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, you're good. Yeah, when I was in Mississippi, I was in Young Valley. We were, just kind of burning up until the wheels sort of fell off. It was like, it's hard because you can make great music with a great group of people, but it's really hard when you don't have like the business mindset or the support to make it something that you can all make a living off of, because you have to dedicate so much time to it.
Right.
And so we eventually went different directions. As I was sort of coming out with my first solo record, was lucky enough to tour a bunch on that, thanks to a friend of mine who gave me an opening slot for his huge tour.
Who was it?
My friend Justin Peter Kinkelschuster.
Wow.
That's his real name.
That's a crazy name.
Yeah. And
is that what he goes by when he's playing?
Yes.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Wow. How does that fit on a poster?
I don't know. Well, JPKS.
Oh, yeah. Initials. There you go.
Yeah. He came from this band Water Liars, which is like kind of royalty in some ways in Mississippi and for the circles who know him. I mean, Pete is an incredible songwriter, and we did this big tour together and big couple tours. I was also touring with Jimbo Mathis, who is a spiritual and musical mentor for me. He's the band leader of the Squirrel Nut Zippers, and he's also come out with like 20 solo records, including just his most recent release was with Andrew Bird.
No way.
Yeah, they did a record together. Is
it just a collaborative album?
Album. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's like more folk songs called These 13, and they're just playing their instruments and singing together.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's so sick, dude. Yeah. Andrew Bird's dope.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. So they've known each other a long time, and but 2019 I was touring simultaneously with Pete and Jimbo. And it was like on the tour with Pete going to East Coast, and then with Jimbo I went West Coast. And then I came back, slept for a day, and then with Pete, I went back out to the West Coast. And then I went with Jimbo to the East Coast. And then then I watched my sister get married and had Thanksgiving. And then I was back out with Jimbo. And then I was back out with Pete. It was wild. And it was all like just after quitting a band that I was in for 6 years. And it was total like destruction and reconstruction of self, being like, I thought that I was going to be in this band forever, and now I'm not. And what does this look like for me now? And where do I go?
Was it weird to be pulled in a million different directions after that? Do you feel like part of you wanted time to like think and figure it out, or was it kind of a blessing that you were running around constantly?
At the time, I think it was a blessing that I was able to relocate that energy.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my solution to everything. So, which I learned doesn't work because, of course, at the beginning of 2020, I was stuck at home with my parents with a bunch of dates wiped clean. And, I was planning on moving out here to Athens in the summer. And, and this is my long-ass roundabout way to get to what you just asked, is how you reconcile with that. That was the first time I reconciled with it and went, what does Spencer the person want outside of what Spencer the musician wants?
Yeah.
And the only way I could figure that out was because I was forced to. And I spent so much time rolling around a suitcase and always being packed to go somewhere that when I had to physically unpack, I also had to mentally unpack, you know? And that was my first time I was like, I have to seek therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I think a lot of people did at that time.
Yeah. I mean, therapy has been a huge business nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's amazing how much that boomed over the course of the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that helped you? Like, in what ways? For what you're comfortable sharing, of course.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of an open book on that stuff, but I still deal with it from time to time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and in fact, like, I think I still do therapy thanks to Nucci Space, you know, providing affordable therapy.
Yeah. Shout out to Nucci Space.
Shout out to Nucci Space. Seriously. Helped me through a rough time as soon as I moved into town. Because right after dealing with all of that, I moved to Athens. And I was, you know, tired of just living with my folks. And
Yeah.
I saved up enough money, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to figure it out. Shout out to them. I love them. But, you know.
So do they provide like therapy services? Because I am still a little unclear about their business model, I guess. Because I know if you're not familiar, Nucci Space is like a rehearsal space. They'll also put on shows there.
Mm-hmm.
But then seems to be this other side where it's very mental health aware.
Yeah. So it's like they have deals with a counseling service or a dentistry or anything like that, where Nucci's almost acts as like insurance to go towards, you know, any musician that needs it. Like, if you can't afford to get your teeth cleaned and you don't have health insurance or dental insurance, then they work with a dentist that will give you very affordable cleaning and checkup. And that's kind of the same way they do with therapy, where it can be a whole lot less because Nucci Space is there helping out, and they work out these deals with the counseling service. And so I've had the same therapist since like October 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it is a couple years. We had a little break when I thought, like, I was like, everything's cool. And then I'm like,
You're like,
nah, I need to go
it's
back.
not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you feel like it's helped you? And like, in what ways?
Oh God. I mean, just like believing in my own thoughts, you know? First of all, and learned a lot about how I deal with and reconcile with relationships, and how far I leaned into ones that weren't serving me, you know, in order to just achieve some approval that was never going to be there.
I think we're kindred spirits here.
Yeah. So that was a big one. That was a huge one. And also just like learning what it's like to take a break and go easy on myself, and put up boundaries, and just say, like, this is what I need for myself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people with the absolute most compassion in our whole world are also the people who have the firmest boundaries. You know?
Yeah.
Because if you can build solid boundaries for yourself, then it's like, when I'm there for you, I am there for you 100%. And not just because I feel obligated to.
Wow. Yeah. That's so true. Dropping gems on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's like somebody phrased it this way, where you have to think of yourself as like your friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's another person. The shit you would do for your friend, like your best friend, you might not do for yourself, which is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just because we don't take a lot of time to think about it that way.
Yeah.
But it really is, especially when you think about your body. Like the body will take in all these feelings and things that you don't deal with because you want to not think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it still like sits in your body, and if you can't address that, then it's only going to get worse and worse and worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it builds in different ways. It's even like tensions that you hold in your body.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
like physical things like in your neck or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you find ways to release that, that's almost like trauma can come up.
Yep.
It's kind of insane how integrated the body and the mind are. And the more they are, the better we are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of something I wrote down that I wanted to ask you about. There was an article from Shout Out Atlanta that they did on you. And they asked a really interesting question, which was, how do you feel about risk and risk taking? And you said, every experience has brought on a vicious case of imposter syndrome, but those same experiences opened up more space for me to grow. And this really hit home for me because having just moved to Athens, I found myself surrounded by so many incredibly talented artists that are doing everything that I've wanted to do. And that makes me question, like, I don't belong here. Like, I'm not at this caliber. So, but obviously, you know, that's not true. And that's that self-doubt that comes in that you have to just say, hey, you know, it's okay to feel like this, but it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
So how have you navigated that feeling? And, you know, would you still agree with how you feel, like what you said about risk taking?
Well,
because this was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And I still believe that. And thanks for doing your research.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think going back to the simple risk for reward, and then expanding on that. But you do have to take a leap in order for the net to appear. You know, jump and the net will appear. And I think we're more resilient and stronger than we think. It's only when we get put in new situations that, you know, we kind of freak out. But you learn and you adapt, and just like I did a couple of years ago, and just like you did when you first moved into town, you know, you carve your way out, and then you look around and you realize, like, oh, I have this huge community of people, and I've done this and that, and regardless of accolades, you know, the biggest accolade is the fact that you've grown.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is something that you have to really know for yourself, because it's not tangible usually, right? Yeah. There's no tangible way to understand that you've changed for the better in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I feel like it is important to be cognizant of that, but it's hard. It's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to say than to do.
Absolutely.
What do you feel like your biggest risk reward was?
I mean, I think first one was going out and just doing the solo stuff and putting out my first solo record was like, you know, I didn't even know I had it in me. And then I realized there was a lot more there after I did that. And
when did you realize that? Was it before you put it out, or was it after you put it out?
I think I shut it down for a while, where it's like I'll have a tendency to, in order to make other people feel comfortable, shut down whatever is, you know, whether it's my true thought or my true creative expression, you know.
Right.
And I think that's what I did in the band that I was in for a while. And so when I was kind of like quietly tinkering at my own record, whenever I had the chance to, I realized I was like, oh, this is something special here. And I realized like how capable I had grown as a songwriter. And because I'd become more of a performer because I needed to perform to make money for that, you know. I went out and just played at the 6 to 9 bar scene,
Right.
or whatever, but I took the cash, put it in the drawer. And I don't know, I guess I realized like as I was making it, what I was capable of, and I think right before I started recording Hangin' Tough, it was 2018, I had just broken up with a girlfriend who was awesome, but we weren't serving each other, you know?
Yeah.
It was just like we were just in a stagnant spot. Nobody was giving anything to it anymore. And I knew like a couple of weeks before I went in to record, I was like, I need a clean space.
Yeah.
And so I think I just, I don't know, going in to make that record made me realize I was in like a stagnant relationship or a band of people that I loved, but I think that I was just going different places, and I needed my own schedule and timeline and couldn't take everybody with me.
Yeah. And that's very hard to do.
Yeah.
To cut certain people out or to cut certain activities or whatever is maybe not serving you, but feels comfortable. It's very hard to cut that stuff out when you know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. We'll find new battles for that
every day,
every step of the way.
Yeah.
You don't ever just get there and say, I did it. You know, every step of the way takes work. Whether you're in a, new relationship or with new bandmates, or you have to run into those experiences and get to those places again where you go like, okay, like how do I grow from this again? How do I do another scary thing? Because once you know how to break out of the stagnance, you recognize it when you're back in it.
Yes, that's true. Wow, that's very true. Which kind of makes you grateful for some of those experiences in the first place. When you are going through, like, I remember I had a roommate like a few years ago, it was like 5 years ago. And I just realized I had two roommates. It was not a great situation. It was the first time I'd ever really felt like these people that were very close to me physically didn't really have my best interests at heart. Like kind of that first experience with like what felt like genuine like malevolence at times, and like not being able to get out of that. And now that's taught me, as awful as that experience was, it taught me like what to look for in certain people and what to be like careful about. Like if you see this kind of behavior, know that I'm not crazy. That is probably something that is there. You know what I mean? And like trusting your instincts on things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also having the courage to communicate when it's not serving you.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way it ever comes to a resolution. But you have to have the conflict first.
Dude, yeah.
And you spend all the time being like, I don't want to. You push it off and it eats away at you.
Yeah. We might be the same person. This is like literally exactly. I feel like I'm talking to myself right now. This is wild.
Yeah. Just an older version.
I know.
I've made more mistakes than you. This is
this is like the Christmas story. The ghost from Christmas past coming. That's what this feels like right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like right now I feel like I'm in a very successful and loving romantic relationship, but it took the one prior to that to really break me to understand what I actually needed.
Yeah.
And to go in, again, hard boundaries. Like, I will love you forever if you respect my boundaries and if I put them up.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You got to have your end of the deal too, where you honor that.
Yeah. And that's it. I've always had a difficult time honoring my end of the deal. And the last time I was in a relationship, I woke up 3 months into it and being like, I have completely lost myself. Yeah. And so, but because I had that feeling, it was one that I recognized.
Right.
And so the next time that started creeping in with my next relationship, I go, hey, like, I need to do this for myself. This is for me. I need to take a step back from this. We need to lean more into this.
Right.
And
if they're the right person, they recognize that and they're like, of course, totally.
yeah.
And usually it's much less of a problem for them than it is for you to acknowledge it in the first place,
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it takes the right fit, but it takes like you have to run it through that filter to know what is the right fit. And which means, like, if your roommates aren't going to respect your boundaries, well,
We're not talking about Tommy and Zach, by the way.
No, we're not talking about Tommy and Zach. We love Tommy and Zach.
They're great. We love
Carmen. Them. Yeah. But just for example, for the viewers at home, but if your roommates aren't respecting your boundaries, but they're also totally oblivious to the fact that they're that they're obstructing them, or like, if you haven't put up the boundary,
right,
how is anybody going to know?
Exactly.
And this is me just giving out advice that I rarely take.
Yeah, it's a lot easier giving it.
Right. But you do have to, I mean, and honestly, this is kind of therapeutic for me to even just say this, but it's like, you have to, in order to have the resolution, which may not be as like scary or wild as you think it is, you have to bring it to a head, even if it means just like one little ounce of confrontation, which terrifies me greatly.
Yeah. Dude, I feel that 100%.
Yeah.
But it is important to do that for yourself, and for the people around you that may involve. But I am also somebody giving out advice that I don't take right now.
Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt. But I do believe it. I'm just not very good at it. But dude, that's gonna take us over the last 5 here. Actually, before the last 5, I want to ask you, since we've been on this kind of more deeper level of conversation, in your whole musical career, because I do want to bring it back to music, what do you feel like have been the biggest 2 or 3 lessons that you've learned that you could impart on somebody who hasn't been doing this as long? It can be practical. It can be more spiritual as well.
If you're in a band, most of the time, if you're in a band, you're probably not an incredible businessman.
Yeah.
Or you're not punctual, or just, you have to learn to let go of control. And one thing that I learned watching the guys in Futurebirds, where they've been a band almost 15 years. Wow. I don't know. We just always say like 13 or 12 or 15. It's somewhere in there. But I realized what it was because they're willing to accept each other's positives as they are willing to accept each other's faults. And they know, like, well, This person will do this if we do this. This person gets this way if we do act this way. And so you just have to work with that. You have to work with what people are giving you. And so I would say like keep at it, but just like also like let go of the wheel, because or you will be so frustrated that it's not turning the way that you want it to go.
Yeah. That's very well said.
Yeah. And honestly, this is like, I was kind of like a dick in my first band just because like I was trying to get it to a place of success that anything that like I didn't have as good of a time. I wasn't enjoying myself the way that I could have. Yeah.
Were you just because you wanted so much control over the situation?
Yeah. It was a control thing. I was a control freak.
I get it. I mean, when it comes to something that you love deeply and you want to get to a certain place, you'll exercise a lot of control to make that happen. And it's not like this amount of control equals this output. Like, it's just not how it works.
Yeah.
It's not that simple.
Yeah. And just because you've been so, it's like you spend a bunch of time preparing for something that never comes or happened anyway, or didn't happen anyway. I don't know. So I going from one band to kind of floating by myself for a while to being in another band. And I realized this other band that I thought was on a professional level functioned very similarly to the band that I was in before. Not saying that they're not on a new level, but I realized I was like, oh, I just wasn't accepting and I wasn't able to just kind of like let go of the wheel.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So, I mean, even if you're young and like having to work a couple of jobs and not really making any money, like you just gotta remember that the whole reason that we played shows was to have a good time.
Right.
And to live out our creative work.
Yeah. That's very well said. Great advice right there. Number 1.
2, we kind of discussed before, is just like it's a marathon, not a race when you're on tour.
Yes.
Take care of your body, take care of your mind. And
it will thank you.
Yeah, and it will thank you. And
sorry, you keep going.
3, just bring your water bottle. There are so many, and there are also so many snacks at gas stations you don't need.
Oh, dude, yes, it's dangerous. I'll pick up Takis for no reason.
You just feel, when you walk through, you just cruise through the aisles. You feel obligated to get something just because you're there. But honestly, it's a hell of a money saver if you just drink water and coffee, and you bring your own gear for it.
Yeah. True. I need like a good water bottle. I don't have one. I use that's nice.
Hydro Flask.
Shout out to the Hydro Flask.
Shout out to the Hydro Flask. I lost my other one, rest in peace, and I just got this one yesterday.
Nice.
So
nice. I need to get one. I only have literally just like plastic water bottles that I refill, and then that's it. And I feel like I'm killing the earth with all the plastic.
Yeah.
But
also, we don't know about the carcinogens or whatever.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
The heated up plastic water bottle.
I know. I think about that too, and it makes me feel like I'm killing myself slowly, but it's probably not the worst thing I'm doing either. Yeah. I wanted to go to the last 5, but I forgot that you had posted on your story asking people to give you questions, or what should we talk about on this pod, and then you sent me a few. So
oh yeah, lightning round.
Yeah, I want to do a little lightning round.
Okay. Ready.
Yeah, so let's keep it to like 1 or 2 sentences per topic.
Cool.
Okay. So Read Break Music says he wants you to talk about what it was like to integrate into an existing band and find your niche. I guess this is about Futurebirds.
Okay. Still working on that.
Still working on it.
It's great. I still do my own thing. I still play in the band. Still working out the balance. But it's fine. We're doing great.
Nice.
Okay, go.
Mr. Trafton says the cancellation of Carter.
Trafton's from California. He's our merch manager. Because he's from California, we make a joke that he's going to cancel everybody. And so Carter King is in Futurebirds, and he's talking about the cancellation of Carter.
Nice.
I responded, great film, like it was a movie. Anyway, go.
We got 2 more from Mr. Trafton as well. Ruby Tuesdays is one.
No comment.
No comment. He also says Southern Justice.
It's this joke that he said when he was in California before he went to school at Belmont in Nashville. And then I was like, Trafton, we should probably take the Southern out of the Justice because it could get hairy down here.
Yeah, the South shall rise again.
Yeah. You gotta be careful with that. So he's shortened it to Justice.
Okay, good. He might get canceled if we keep saying that.
Watch out, Trafton.
Yeah. Okay, CM Warren says, if you had to make Warren Zevon one plate of only Nental offerings, what would you serve?
Okay, tiny little backstory. Tom Myers and I have a Instagram profile called Nental Diaries where we talk about continental breakfast.
Okay.
So shout out to Nental Diaries.
Nental. So it's continental.
Nental.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is Nental?
And I said I would serve Warren Zevon pot roast because in the song Excitable Boy, he talks about the excitable boy who rubs pot roast all over his chest.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Maddie T. Duncan says me.
That's my girlfriend.
Oh, okay, shout out to Maddie T. Duncan.
Shout out to Maddie Madison.
We love you, Madison.
Yeah, we love you, Madison.
HD Webb says DSU Choral 2017 to 2018.
I was the Delta State University Chorale.
Nice.
Yeah, and wait, what do you say? 2017 to 18?
Yeah.
Hunter, I wasn't there.
Damn, Hunter, come on. Do the research.
Do the research. It was like 10 to 14. Next.
Maybe something happened 2017, 2018. We don't know. That was important.
I guess.
Lars Hefner. Shout out to Hefner.
Uh-huh.
They have a great album called Perfect Heaven. Go listen
Yeah.
to it. Lars Hefner says, the effect your bean and egg burrito has on your body.
Oh, I told him I was making an egg and bean burrito, and I said I was creating a fart machine.
That will do it. I mean, eggs and beans in a burrito.
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up for a rough morning. But I bet it tastes pretty good.
It was like 3 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It wasn't bad.
Any time of day, still going to have that effect.
Yeah.
That's all of the questions I got in the screenshot you sent me. Were there any that, off the top of your head, you want to announce?
Somebody asked about the Red Rocks experience, which we already talked about. Vaughn Lamb said, what's it like being a legend? But I was like, I wouldn't know. Maybe somebody should ask you about that.
Nice.
And that's it.
All right, cool. Well,
Yeah.
we got through all the questions. Nice little lightning round. Maybe I'll start doing that. That's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we go to the last 5, where I
Okay.
just ask 5 quick questions and then we're done.
Cool.
Number 1, this doesn't have to be as lightning round,
Mhm.
although it can be. Number 1, in the studio or playing live?
Studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because you've been touring so much lately.
I have toured so much, but just in the studio, your brain is just turned on in a different way because you're being creative. You're creating parts, you're adding to parts, and that's, my heart lives in like making the song.
I agree.
So playing it live is totally great and fun and exciting, but it can be mundane because, when you play the same songs enough times, you're like, all right, well, I've done a lot to this song.
Right.
I know all my parts. So it's just more exciting.
Kind of becomes autopilot.
Yeah, it becomes autopilot. So
Where in the studio, you can take something that didn't exist, and then in a day, it's
Mhm.
like something amazing.
yeah. And you come up with that new part and you're like, yes. Yeah.
Or some weird sound you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I live for that.
Me too.
Yeah.
I agree. Question number 2. What do you think is a perfect album front to back? And why is it Born to Run?
Why is it Born to Run? Oh shit. Okay. I have to shout out to my boy Warren Zevon on this.
Okay.
Excitable Boy is, one of my favorite albums on planet Earth.
Warren Zevon is somebody I've never listened to.
Yeah. I went on a huge deep dive, and that's very influential for my next record.
Okay.
But yeah. And one more recently and also more surprising is Pressure Machine by The Killers.
Oh yeah. Is that the album cover with like the crosses behind the fence?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I've seen it, but I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, it's brand new. It's about Brendan Flowers, where he grew up in this small town in Utah, and it's all based around that. And I mean, I think it's just beautiful and special. It's like it kind of has a tinge of the Springsteen, Nebraska feeling.
Oh wow.
Where it's like
Another great album.
yeah. I mean, talk about perfect start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
But so I wanted to name something from the past and something from more recent times. But that Killers Pressure Machine album is like, if you haven't thought about the Killers in a while, that'll
I haven't. Yeah.
refocus your attention.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll give that a listen. I've never really even listened to an entire Killers album. I only know the hits.
Yeah. I mean, which is fair because most of the songs they have are hits.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
right?
they're hit makers, but
They are.
This one was like, let's make a project and not a hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. I'll give it a listen.
Yeah.
Question number 3. Who is your dream artist or producer to work with?
Oh man.
You can name a few.
Man, I'd love to work with Rick Rubin.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's probably the number one answer on this podcast.
yeah. I mean, just because like I love his energy so much.
Yeah. His podcast is great.
Yeah. So just like the way he talks to people and the way that music still sounds, the way he talks about music, he's like, it's like he's bubbling up like a little boy.
Yeah.
Yet he's an older man with a long beard.
Crazy beard. And you know what's wild? He's like only like 50 something.
Yeah.
Like he seems like he's 100 years old with that beard, but he's only like 55.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, he worked on Tom Petty's Wildflowers, which is, one of my absolute favorites.
Tom Petty's another one who I know all the hits, but never listened to a whole album.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be fair, he's got like 25 hits.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing with the Killers. It could just be an album of hits.
Right.
I mean, like Full Moon Fever is a hit album. But yeah, I would definitely explore like like Wildflowers,
Okay.
and deep cut Southern accents is
Okay.
a great one for me.
Southern Accents, is that an album or a song?
That's an album.
Oh, okay.
That's the one that has Don't Come Around Here No More.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Tom Petty's sick.
he's great. And
He's one of those guys where I grew up hearing him all the time because my parents would just listen to him when he was on the radio. So he kind of just became like, I don't know, a guy that my parents listened to. And it wasn't until maybe a couple of years ago, after having made music and recorded music and writing and all that, I was like, oh, wait, this guy's a genius. Like, he's not just like some artist only dads listen to. It's like, this guy is clearly like a hit maker. And I'm sure it makes other songs that aren't hits that are still like beautiful and amazing. But the fact that I can think of 20 songs and there's probably 20 more that I know but I don't know that he's put out.
I mean, and talk about knowing every word because all the words are disgustingly simple. and you're like, what? I mean, like anybody could write that, and then you realize no, that's not the case.
Yeah, it makes it look so easy.
It's way harder to write simple and original than it is anything else.
Yeah, it's like watching a football game and getting pissed at the quarterback for not being fast enough. It's like, why don't you try? Why don't you try that? While like 20 other, peak specimen athletes are trying to kill you. Mm-hmm. It's like, it seems on the outside like you could do that. Mm-hmm. And then you try it and you're like, oh, this is really hard. It's hard to write lyrics that you feel good about, let alone lyrics that will resonate with the world.
Yeah.
And then do that 40 times.
Yeah.
At minimum.
Yeah. I mean, like, say what you will about pop country, but hey, they get a bar full of people singing the song.
Yep.
They did it.
You can't argue with it.
They did their job, as much as you listen to it and you're like, I can't stand this.
Yeah. I just started getting back into like older country, like 70s country. Mm-hmm. And I never really listened to Loretta Lynn until she just passed, R.I.P. But yeah. I started listening to like her bigger songs. And I don't know, it's just funny, like lyrics like those nowadays, I don't feel like people wouldn't write that way. Mm-hmm. But she had such a, like, you weren't wondering what she was saying. Mm-hmm. She was telling a real story, and all those kinds of older country tunes really tell a story, and you know exactly what's happening. And like, that's so much harder than writing these kind of oblique lyrics. Maybe not harder, but they're both hard. But I feel like it doesn't get credit because people might think it's simple. It's like, that's not simple. That's arguably much harder.
Yeah, because you have to write something that captivates people.
Right.
And you have to tell it in a language that everyone can grip to.
Exactly.
So, and then you also got to have a catchy hook and a good title.
Yeah.
Because I think if you have a title, you have a song.
True. Once the title comes in.
Maybe that was my other advice.
Come up with a good title.
Yeah. If you have a title, you have a song.
God Grant Me a Parking Space is a great title.
And I wrote the song because I had the title. It's
so good because it reminded me of, because I lived in LA for a while, like 5 years. And dude, I mean, the amount of times I prayed for a parking space is is unreal. Oh God. It's just absurd. Like, it's so hard to find anything. And I still have like PTSD from that because I'll be anywhere in Atlanta. And if I have to go somewhere new, that's especially like in the city, I'm like, oh, okay, like, where am I going to park? Like, do I need to park a block away, 2 blocks away? Do I need coins? Because they only have meters with coins. And then I get there and it's like a huge ass empty lot. And you're like, oh yeah, because this isn't LA and we're not insane. We have space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that struck a real chord with me. Mm-hmm. Question number 3. Oh, wait, no. I always try to give my ideas of who I think would be really sick for you to work with. Blake Mills stuck out to me. That would be rad.
I would love to work with Blake Mills. I'm actually really glad you brought that up. He's amazing.
He is the man. Yeah. I love his solo stuff and the stuff he did with Alabama Shakes. Mm-hmm. He's like so fucking good.
Did he do that Sound and Color record?
Yes, he did.
Oh my God.
And he did Perfume Genius. Do you know him?
I've heard the name.
He's more on like the experimental pop route, which is interesting that Blake Mills works with him. But his newest 2 or 3 albums, Blake Mills worked on with him. Yeah. And it's just like the sounds they get are unreal. So I'd give Perfume Genius a listen. At least not the newest one first, because it's really weird, like out there. But No Shape, I would give that one a listen.
No Shape.
Yeah, because it's Blake Mills producing it, and Perfume Genius's songs are just like these crazy, beautiful pop songs, but the instrumentation and arrangement is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely him. And then the other person I wrote down would be Jim James from My Morning Jacket.
Hey. Well, I mean, we were lucky enough with Futurebirds to be able to work with Carl.
Is he in My Morning Jacket?
He's a guitar player.
Oh, sick.
And we were really fortunate to work with him for the past 2 Futurebirds EPs. And shout out to Carl. Come
on the show, Carl.
He may have sneaked in a little feature on Spencer Thomas record 2 as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
No way.
I I adore Carl. Obviously I've been listening to him for a long time, but just like to get to know him as a person and to be like, yeah, I kind of get you, and we're similar, and to have somebody that you've idolized for a long time, and then like you meet them and you just understand them.
Yeah.
As a person, and you go, that's really great. That's really extra special.
Yeah. Some people you click with immediately too.
Mm-hmm.
You just know from the beginning. You're like, oh,
yep.
New friend.
Yeah. But Jim, we'll get to it.
Yes. Yeah. We're working our way up.
Yeah.
Cool. Question number 4. What's on your musical rotation right now?
I just listened to, I'm wearing a Freddie Gibbs sweatshirt right
Nice.
now, but
Yeah.
Freddie Gibbs, Sold Separately is his new record, and I just listened to it start to finish the other day in the van. It's fucking awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know he's awesome.
Uh-huh.
That album cover, I'm like, what am I looking at here? The cartoon bunny. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think of Freddie Gibbs. I'm not thinking of, cute bunnies and things like that. But the music, I'm sure, speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember being crazy during the pandemic and like going out for running in my parents' neighborhood and just spinning Alfredo, that's what this merch line is from. And I've just loved that record so much. And I was really into a hip hop phase during the quarantine, just really dug into him and West Side Gun and a few others. But yeah, Sold Separately is one of my favorites right now.
Nice.
I don't know, man. I have a hard time like digging into a lot of new stuff. Do you ever find that it feels really overwhelming, where all of your friends are putting out music and you're trying to think about music, and then not to mention the rest of the world is putting out music, and then you kind of, I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And then you
Totally
go back to kind of listen to the same shit that you always did.
I do feel that because of this podcast, though, it always keeps me listening to a new artist every week because I have to interview somebody new every week. So at least I'll never be like bored with new music because I have to find somebody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then it's like, it does go back into that comparison thing where I'm constantly hearing new great music from people my age or even younger. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, it's cool to talk to them. It's great to talk to them. But I have to tell myself like, it's okay. It's okay that you're not on that path right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is an interesting kind of flip side of that coin.
I know. You're like, why does this person have 20,000 Instagram followers?
100,000 monthly listeners.
Is it because they use Reels? I don't even know how to do one of those.
Dude, yeah, TikTok, I'm like, I'm out. I'm so bad at it.
Well, I mean, you also think about like people who are younger than us, just a quick little side note, people who are younger than us, like this is the way that they've released music.
True.
Like they have only really known social media and Spotify. And so like the days of making CDs and like, trying to sell them for $5 to people or handing out a couple songs, as samples, it's just like
not happening.
It's over, but
I think there is that nostalgia though. Some people still enjoy that, I still enjoy getting a CD.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't fight the TikTok takeover.
You can't fight it, and I know, and I feel curmudgeon-y when I complain about it, but truthfully, it's like if you want to make a career for yourself, you kind of have to, but just, you just got to make sure it's you. Like, you don't want to do something that feels inauthentic, but you do have to do it.
Yeah. I'll never give somebody shit for doing that because I think any road you can take to get to where you want to go, is if you are comfortable with that, is totally fine and like more power to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I am able to do that. Like I can't. Like it's so hard to do the TikTok thing and like sing into the microphone and like come up with a dance for my song. I'm like, I cringe when I think about doing that. But that's me, and I know everybody else is better at that, and that's fine. And I'm not gonna be pissed at them because I can't do it, you know. And maybe I could if I really put the a way to find it, make it myself, you know.
Yeah.
But that's tough as well.
Yeah. That's another thing too. It's like you just don't want to put too much. You put so much pressure on your art, it breaks too.
Yeah.
You know? So I guess I am thankful for the fact that like really the main thing for me is playing with Futurebirds and Daniel Womack, Walms as they call him. He's really great at doing the social media stuff and spends a lot of time with it. And I'm like, I'm very thankful that you are designated for that.
I know. I need somebody to do it for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. For like for personal music, I go like, well,
right.
I know how to make an Instagram post pretty good, but then when it comes to like the reels and also just like the constant collecting of footage because you know like this would be good on social media.
Right.
And I'm like, man, like this is why we're not in the present.
Yeah, because we're constantly thinking about that.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
So I don't know. What was the question?
The question was, what's on your musical rotation? And somehow we got here.
Hefner, Perfect Heaven.
Hefner, Perfect Heaven. Truly, perfect album.
Truly.
It's fucking slaps.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hefner. Glad I got to interview them back in January.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen them a few times now, and they rock.
Yeah. And they, you know, I'm lucky to have some of them. I mean, they played all over record 2 and the new single She Doesn't Know She Does It coming out October 20th.
October 20th, everybody go check it out.
Yeah. So, you know, Taylor and Lars and Will and Reagan, McKendrick, Tommy, all of the Hefner HQ.
Nice.
Yeah. Look, I'm so thankful for those dudes over the past 2 years. And Will and Lars are Jackson boys. I've known them for forever.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
Since they were starry-eyed 18-year-old kids working at a guitar shop.
Dude, hell yeah. That's sick. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so shout out to Hefner. Last question here before we're done. What's your favorite decade of music? And then part 2 of that is what's the worst decade of music?
Oh, shit. Well, I mean, 1970s for me is like where a lot of my favorite songwriters really shined, you know. It was very much like the songwriter era. You know, as far as worst decade, I'm like, I mean, you know, the 1840s just got a little too obscure for me.
Yeah, they were getting weird.
Yeah, they were just
very experimental.
Yeah. I don't know about the worst decade. I mean, like my first thought is 90s.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
just because it wasn't really my bag, but there's also a lot of great music that came out of that too. But,
Yeah.
you know, when we talk about like, I don't know what they were thinking for snare drums in the 90s. Like, not good snare drums, and the fact
Are
that
we talking like grunge type stuff?
they were
like,
just talking about like, like it just wasn't, just not.
Wasn't
No, I'm
hitting
talking
for
all
you.
types.
all types.
All types. Like whether it
We're
was
calling
like
out all snare drums in the 90s.
all snare drums in the 90s. I'm calling you out. And
Get
then
your act together.
and then also like completely dry lead vocals.
True.
You know, if you go listen to like Counting Crows or something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
I was never a big Counting Crows guy.
Yeah. I mean, they had you know, if you start singing Accidentally in Love,
that song is great.
it will be in your head all day.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know?
I just think of Shrek
Yeah.
when I hear that song.
They-
That's the only thing I think of.
yeah. I mean, they wrote good songs. You know, for the Counting Crows people, I don't really know a whole lot more than that.
Yeah,
Was it
me
Long
either.
December?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Counting Crows. But yeah, I love asking the worst question or the worst decade now because I used to just do the best. I don't know. It's more fun to like just trash an entire decade. Like, I know so many people now that would like crucify you for saying the 90s is the worst.
Yeah.
But the reality is I'm only saying that about one like topic that happened in that, that decade. Like 80s. I would say 80s is the worst, but that's only because I'm thinking of like hair metal and like Def Leppard, and like that was the stuff at the time.
Yeah.
But then there's like New Order and like The Cure and like bands that were obviously super cool. Tears for Fears that are
Born
great.
in the USA.
Born in the USA. Yeah,
Yep.
I forgot that's an 80s album.
Yeah. No, but also 80s was the most powerful because I felt like whether you were a songwriter who had a career that started in the late 60s or if you were just a new sprouting band, it's like there's a synthesizer and a drum machine and on every motherfucking album.
Yeah, people went a little nuts with the gated reverb on the snare.
Yeah.
They went a little nuts. And with the synths, of course.
Yeah.
I feel like the 70s is maybe the best because, I would usually say 2010s because I just have a personal attachment to that. But the 70s being the fact that you have these kind of singer-songwriter types starting to integrate with weirder sounds, but they haven't gone full overboard yet,
Yeah. And there was also just, I think, generally there was just more time and attention and more ears on just a song for what it was from start to finish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think we pay as much attention anymore. I mean, that includes me and we write songs.
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in the electronics of everything and the effects and all that, but if it passes the campfire test, if you can play the song at a campfire and everybody knows it.
Campfire test.
Yeah, somebody on the podcast told me that and I'm like, "Oh, that's so true."
That's really great. The campfire test. Yeah.
Like God grants me a parking space. That passes the campfire test.
It's like, yeah.
I feel like I'm at a campfire when I'm listening to it.
Right. If you can pick up an acoustic guitar and you can play the song and people say, I like that song, or they have something to attach with, then it's good. When you start being like, well, you got to hear it with all the stuff on it. I'm like, well,
It's a slippery slope.
Then I'm sure it's fine, but it's like, yeah, but it's most powerful if it can just be, 4 chords and the truth or whatever. I
got a few of those songs where it's, you got to hear the whole thing. I definitely have a few of those for sure on Spotify, which I've moved on from, and now I'm trying to take that approach, just because it feels more human. Not that there's anything wrong with the other one, because I love that shit too.
Yeah.
But to each their own.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be the end of our first episode, our first in-person episode. Spencer Thomas, thank you for joining me. Everybody go check out She Doesn't Know She Does It out October 20th.
Out October 20th.
Right?
I'm going to have some sick merch for it.
Ooh, what do we got? You want to say it or you want to let it be a surprise?
I'll post pre-orders next week.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody buy some merch, listen to the single, stream it, make TikToks out of it.
Yeah.
It's going to be dope.
I want to see your TikTok dances.
Yeah.
All of my friends who are in their mid-40s who are the only ones who listen to my music.
There's nothing cringe about mid-40s people doing TikTok dances.
No.
Let's go viral. But Spencer, thank you again.
Thank you,
I appreciate
Parker.
you coming on the pod.
This is great. Yeah.
It's been awesome, dude. And thank you for helping me at the very beginning with your engineering tip, figuring out how we could both hear our voices. That really saved the day. You saved the day at the very beginning of this episode.
I can't believe I saved the day with an engineering tip.
You did. Everybody hit him up for engineering work.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining me for another episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and you can even leave a comment down below to let me know who you're listening to. On that note, I'll see you guys next time.